All right, so thanks everyone for coming. Great turnout. I am Commissioner Kristen Burke. I am the commissioner for this area. And so if you've emailed me any of your concerns, then that's who that comes to. And hopefully I've been able to help you if you have. Thank you to Russell Baptist, Chad Weeks for letting us come in here again. And hopefully we'll be able to answer a lot of your questions. So thank you all for being here again as we kick off the construction of a project that will improve traffic flow throughout the county, increase public safety, and prepare for what's to come with the completion of the First Coast Expressway. Growth and development are happening all over Florida. We definitely know that. And this project that we're talking about this evening, the Bonded Transportation Program, is instrumental to manage the traffic seen by that growth in our area. It will allow the flow of traffic to stay ahead of the anticipated growth on our roadways as we redesign the infrastructure to handle the expected increased traffic. Tonight, you're going to hear from our County Manager, Howard Wanamaker, our Bonded Transportation Program Administrator, Ed Dindor, and Project Managers Carlos Campos and Josh Maddox with WGI Incorporated, as they provide the background and overview and share what to expect as we start this series of projects in the Lake Asbury and Green Cove Springs area. At the end of the presentation, you'll also be able to ask any questions you might have. As more people come to our state and Northeast Florida, we can expect that other things will come with it. Restaurants, shopping, recreation, and homes. Also with that comes more revenue which will be used in our county for our residents. As more people call Clay County home and as Northeast Florida continues to grow, we're putting a foundation in place so we're in the best position possible to handle it. We're proud of our county, and it's my hope that generations to come and new residents who will call Clay County home will share that feeling as well. Now I'd like to introduce Ed Dindor, we're our Bonded Transportation Program Administrator, to provide an overview of the project.
Thank you, Dr. Burke. Commissioner Burke, sorry. As the First Coast becomes a reality, the county planners and engineers analyzed our roadways capacity and areas of predicted growth. As a new roadway is built down the center of our county, essentially, the planners and engineers determined projects to improve our roads that were already at capacity or where the traffic flow could be better. To that point, they identified portions of 6 existing roads that needed improvement and recommended that one new road actually be built. The new road is called the First Coast Connector, also now known as Cathedral Oak Parkway, as well as the designate for the numerical is County Road 216. This evening, we'll provide more information on the work that is essentially here in the Green Cove Springs and Lake Asbury area. This program of road improvements is called the Bonded Transportation Program. It's really a program, it's just not one project. These changes will improve the traffic flow from east to west connecting roads to the main arterial roads so that our county can handle the increased traffic that we anticipate. All of these road projects will increase public safety, improve traffic flow throughout the county, improve drainage, and improve sidewalk and bicycle connectivity. The last point I want to make to our team, basically, if you would, and first and foremost, real key is safety. And that we can't emphasize that enough. That's basically for the driving public, the walking public, as well as the workers in and along the roads that we're building. Drive with caution, be patient, and courteous most of all. Our fellow neighbors, and a lot of our work crews are going to be your fellow neighbors, brothers and sisters, risk their lives to improve these roads that we're building. So please pay close attention while traversing and driving in the work zone. The Bonded Transportation Program is a major undertaking. This effort takes a lot of planning before the actual road construction can begin. Our county staff, engineers, have been working closely with WGI to plan, prepare, and finally execute the program. Now on to specifics for the 5 projects we're really here to talk about tonight in the Green Cove Springs and Lake Asbury area. Our 2 project managers, Carlos Campos and Josh Maddox. A couple of projects fall underneath Carlos, and he'll specifically talk about those, and then Josh Maddox has the others. So with that, I'll turn it over to Carlos. Carlos?
Thank you, Ed. Ed mentioned, my name is Carlos Campos. I'm with WGI, and we represent the owner's rep I'll be covering the Lake Asbury projects, which is Sandridge and Russell. The phase one, we're going to divide them into 3 projects, 3 phases. What I call phase one is Sandridge Road, which is right here in front of us. Sandridge Road begins at Henley Road, and you head east towards Russell Road or County Road 209 for approximately 2.8 miles. The typical section is going to consist with 1 lane in each direction, raised medians to accommodate the left turns and minimize congestion and improve the safety of the traveling public. Additionally, it will include bike lanes, a curb and gutter system with a closed drainage, and throughout the corridor, driveways will be reconstructed in order to connect to the existing roadway system. What I call phase 2 would be the Russell connection, which begins right here in front of this church and heads towards County Road 209. This project will focus on the realignment of Sandridge with County Road 209B, and it includes the realignment and a roundabout at County Road 209B. Additional improvements to this corridor will include Oak Stream Drive and Watkins Road. Phase 3 would be the Russell Road portion south of Peters Creek Bridge. This typical section would include multiple lanes, 4 lanes, east and west bound, left turn lanes in the middle, bike lanes, sidewalks, curb and gutter system, and a closed drainage as well. Additionally, there will be a signalized intersection or a reconfiguration of the intersection at County Road 315B for the new lane configuration. As far as timeline for the projects go, the phase 1 was awarded to GAI, who is here tonight. The design is complete, and we're ready to begin construction. The construction was awarded to Kiewit and is expected to begin in late November. Sandridge Road is expected, the project is expected to be completed on March of 2025. Representatives from both the designer and the contractor team are here tonight if you guys have any questions. The phase 2, which is the Russell Road, again, begins here, right in front of this church and heads to 209, is currently at 60%, and GAI is the designer. This project has not been awarded for construction. However, we have a tentative construction start date of spring of 2023. Finally, the phase 3, which is south of Peters Creek, was awarded to Jacob Engineering, and we're currently at 60% plans. This project has not been awarded for construction. However, has a tentative construction start date of fall of 2023. The designer, Jacobs, is here tonight, and the selected contractor that's working with Jacobs is Superior Construction. If you guys have any questions. With that, I'll hand it over to Josh Maddox. He'll be covering the Green Cove area.
Thanks, Carlos. So yeah, I'll be speaking about the Green Cove Springs Group 2 projects. What you can expect is phase 1 is project 6B, as discussed earlier, is the Cathedral Oaks Parkway and County Road 216. It begins at State Road 23 and heads east for approximately 3.3 miles, and then ends at Maryland Avenue on what is now known as County Road 315. The ultimate roadway typical section is 2 lanes in each direction, while initial construction will have 1 lane in each direction with a raised median in the middle to support left turn lanes. It also include bike lanes, sidewalks, shared use paths, and a curb and gutter closed drainage system, as well as stormwater treatment ponds will be constructed as part of the new alignment and include a new bridge crossing at Peters Creek. There's also a roundabout that will be constructed at Feed Mill Road and a new signalized intersection constructed at County Road 216, where it crosses the north-south section of County Road 315, just south of the 90-degree turn. The phase 2 part of that project is project 6A, which begins at Maryland Avenue, essentially right at the end of the Cathedral Oak Parkway alignment, and extends east towards US 17. And this section is approximately 1.2 miles and will focus primarily on operational improvements initially at County Road 315B and as well as at US 17. A signalized intersection at County Road 315 will also be constructed for the new lane configuration. The timeline of the 2 projects, the phase 1, project 6B, which is the Cathedral Oak Parkway, was awarded on June 3rd, 2022 to Superior Construction and RS&H Design Build Team. Roadway clearing and grubbing operations are scheduled to begin late November of this year, contingent upon permit approvals by St. Johns River Water Management District and the Army Corps of Engineers. The project is expected to be completed by December 2024. The designer, RS&H, and Superior are here tonight and available to answer any questions you may have. The Cathedral Oak Parkway section is right up against this wall. The Phase 2 portion of Project 6 is the rest of the roadway leading towards US 17 and is currently being designed by Jacobs. It's at 60%, just like Carlos was mentioning about Project 2. The project has not been awarded for construction. However, this portion has been tentatively constructed, or tentative construction start date in fall of 2023. And that portion of the roadway is also over here by the Cathedral Parkway. It's an extension of it. With that, I'd like to turn it over to County Manager Howard Wanamaker.
Thank you, Josh, and good evening, everyone. I'll wrap things up and then we'll open for some questions. But most importantly, when we took a look at the First Coast Expressway and its impacts to our community, we took a look at critical and deficient roadways throughout our county. We basically took a look at moving folks east and west and north and south through the central part of the county. We understood that the communities that were planned ahead, that many of them were delayed since the Great Recession of 2007, 2008. We anticipated them cranking back up and developing those different communities. And so we were able to identify these projects that you see here in the back. Back left, my left, you'll see a poster in the back there that identifies all 7 projects. It's in green and on the chart that's there. We took a look at that, we identified those particular roadways, and we came up with a budget. This budget was developed back in 2019 for these 7 projects. We estimated the cost to be approximately $130 million. It turns out $129 million specifically, of which went out to sell bonds. Those bonds were sold in March of 2020, and it was just days prior to our first COVID case here in the county. We were very fortunate to sell the bonds in that time, and if you take a look at the interest rates right now, you can definitely say this fixed rate that we received for that money was very much forward-thinking and forward-leaning. We have had budgetary constraints. When you take a look at it, we're all seeing it in the grocery store and our food and everything else that's out there. We were very also fortunate to bring to the board mobility fees. These are new residents moving into the community, and these developers have to pay these mobility fees. They're within the districts throughout the county. We're very fortunate to have that and set that up, because when you take a look at the budget of these 7 projects, it's now over $160 million. Okay, we're not taxing you anymore. It's coming from the mobility fees to pay that difference and those inflationary constraints. You also have heard about these inflationary constraints, I'm sure, with the Shands Bridge that was just awarded. The lowest bidder for that part of the project and for the First Coast Expressway was $150 million over their original budget. FDOT has assured us that they will continue to build that. It was awarded, and now that expressway will connect from I-10 to I-95. There were some questions there earlier in the month. Just wanted to let you know because these are tax-exempt municipal bonds, and this payment will go out for 20 years for our infrastructure sales surtax, which is 1 cent. And so they must be completed quickly also in order for them to remain tax exempt. So you hear most of the due date is at the end of 2024 for the completion of these. One of them is March of 2025. That's when it has to be completed to keep these tax exempt. With that, we'll pay the bond out for The reason why the board decided to go this way was to efficiently, effectively construct these roads. So you can imagine if it took this long to save up $129 million, 20 years, it wouldn't be till 20 years later that you could build these roads. So we took a look at this, we briefed the board on this, and this was the best way to move forward and to address the critical and deficient roadways in the county. One thing I want to emphasize, safety. Again, I don't like sitting in traffic. I'm sure you all don't like sitting in traffic. Please just be patient. We will take every comment, every suggestion to heart. Know that the top people here in the back that are standing up, the engineers and that, will come up with the best way for detours, the best timeline for construction, taking a look whether it would occur during daylight hours, nighttime hours, the railroad crossings. You see some of the MOTs that are here for detours. Please just be patient with us. Okay, these are, young men and women that are out there on the side of the roadway, which is a dangerous area to be. Please slow down in those areas. Please be patient. And some of our finest will also be out there just to monitor things. There's two in the back here from our sheriff's office. But again, just please help us out with that. If you find that you have a delay or something, if something's gone awry, nothing can be perfect. Okay, just let us know. There'll be ways to contact us, and we'll adjust accordingly. We do it all the time. I see Steve is back there. He's shaking his head and whatever. He doesn't want to be called out. There's other staff that are here. It's a good time for Steve, stand up, because Steve manages a lot of the boots on the ground. Oh, yes, definitely. Whew. Many of you may know him. And then, of course, in front of him is Sheree Stewart. She's the Assistant County Manager for Public Works, Engineering, Building Permits. She's doing a fine job back there. Also, our county engineer is here with us too. Richard, please stand up. Richard Smith, doing a fantastic job on the day-to-day projects, and that he and Ed talk all the time, and to deconflict and coordinate all of these projects. You can imagine how complicated it'll be. I encourage you to go to these tables where the graphics are out, ask all the questions you want, make sure you're familiar. They're very detailed for your neighborhood and the different roadways. Hopefully we'll be able to answer your questions, address those. And if you don't have a chance to do that, we have some comment cards also that were in the check-in, and we'll address those also. So let's talk about communication. Also to my left up on the screen, Annalisa, which by the way, Annalisa, stand up, raise your hand. Our PIO, fantastic. Along with her boss here, Laura Christmas is here, our communications director behind the camera, okay? And I can't let it go without saying Commissioner Sulla is also here. Commissioner Sulla, please. There we go, all right. So, and if I missed somebody, I'm making sure, I think I covered everybody, unless you're hiding back there somewhere. But in the back there on the screen is our bonded transportation program dashboard. It has a lot of great information. Ed really focuses in on this along with Carlos to make sure monthly we update it, correct? That goes up there and kind of the progress of things going on. There, our website that has that drawing that's in the back is also available. Also on our social media, Facebook, Instagram, that Laura and her team will make sure you have up to the minute. And how many of you get our email for road closures on Friday? Raise your hand. Yeah. So if you don't have your hand raised, please see Annalisa in the back. She'll put you on our email list for this, and you'll get up to the minute road closures every Friday, and you know exactly what's going on. It's a great thing. I get it. I look at it, I'm like, oh, okay, I remember that is closed. Okay, coming up this weekend. All right. So it's very important to get that. Okay. I think I covered all of those. Sorry. Yep. And I mentioned Annalisa. So with that, I think I'll open up for some general questions here, specific questions. We could take some things offline, but again, ladies and gentlemen, I'll open up. What questions, concerns do you have? Yes, sir.
A couple of questions. The first one I would be addressing between Peters Bridge and the turn up to Sandwich Road. That's because I live in that stretch.
Okay.
The first one is at the end where you make the turn from Russell off to Sandwich. Is that going to work?
I think everybody needs to hear him.
Oh, so addressing the Russell Road from Peters Bridge up to Sandwich, the left-hand turn, specifically at the turn, there was a stoplight, and they did a lot of construction. Put the stoplight on the side, so there's no stoplight, because when the stoplight was there, it backed up traffic almost a mile.
Right.
Okay. Are there plans to put the stoplight back there?
Okay, good question. I can answer that one, and I'll pass it off. Probably, who wants to take the Peters Creek Bridge one? Carlos, you want that, or, okay. So, and sir, thank you. Well, I don't want to take the mic from you because it'll.
I have two more questions.
Oh, okay, sure. Well, go ahead.
Okay.
Yep. Well,
The second question is that you have the Russell Road from Peters up to Sandwich.
oh, just on the mic, if you could just.
From Russell Road from Peters up to Sandwich as a two-lane road with a divider for people turning. Okay, I thought about that because I live on Russell, and in the last 4 or 5 years, traffic has exponentially increased. So the traffic is backed up from Sandbridge up to my property by Cross Creek, the new Cross Creek entrance.
Right.
So now you have 2 lanes plus the middle lane. So you're assuming that middle lane will alleviate the traffic going either way in the morning or in the evening after work? Are you assuming that? That the traffic will flow better rather than having 4 lanes plus a median?
Sure. Yes. Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay. Then the third thing is the access from my driveway to the road. There's a conduit, crossing over because we have a lot of...
culvert.
The culverts, yeah. How will they fix that or change that? How will that plan for that?
All right, great. Yes,
So
sir.
that
Any
would be
more?
those
That's
three
it.
things.
Okay, let's make sure we don't blow everybody's eardrums out. Okay, so first of all, very specific questions, right? We'll answer these, but if there's some more, there's definitely experts that are at the tables to answer them. I'll answer the one up front here with regards to the safety improvements that were done at the intersection of Sandridge and 209. The traffic light was put up there basically to facilitate trucks and machinery and that to facilitate the under drainage in that area and the resurfacing. We've left the lights there, we just turned them around just in case we needed them. I've talked to Richard about it to kind of have some flexibility if we needed to turn them back on. I don't anticipate them, and I'm looking at Richard to go back on ever. And then what's that?
Zero requests.
Zero requests. And I think that when we took a look at when that corner improved, I think you all would agree that improved a little bit the flow of traffic that was there, right? I mean, it isn't perfect, but it definitely helped out in situations with people turning right and heading south onto Russell. What will precede this and it going into the future, that's where we call here a swoosh. To take 209 Bravo and connect it to Sandwich, okay? And with that, there's a roundabout that'll be there. So no traffic light, it'll be a roundabout in that area. A roundabout is a good way to kind of calm the traffic that's there instead of having a traffic light and to cycle people through and to get them obviously changing in a 90-degree turn. You go through the roundabout and now you'll be heading west on that. So that I think answers that one. These other 3 specific, Carlos, you going to answer those? And I'll stand over here.
So I'll start with the one with the right-of-way. Right now, we're finalizing the right-of-way. So that culvert at your driveway, you're going to get a letter, potentially a temporary construction easement to harmonize, basically tie in the new roadway to your property. That's coming here in the near future. Like I mentioned earlier, that specific project's at 60%. And then your question was about Peters Creek? Right, so our intent is, right now, the way Project 3 is laid out, you have ditches or swales on either side. What we're going to come back with is a curb and gutter system that's going to collect the water from the roadway and divert it to ponds. So there's going to be a couple new ponds throughout the corridor.
Thank you. I forgot one thing, that the speed limit is currently 55,
Oh, yeah.
and that does not occur.
Yep, so 50-55 on Russell. Richard and I have been talking about that lately. I don't know where that's going. Okay, shut that one off. And it may be this one, so let me go over here. So we're taking a look at adjusting that. And Richard and I have been discussing that. Definitely when we take a look at accidents that happen out there, you all report them, and that we see them from public safety side, and that we're going to do something about the the speed limit there to calm the traffic down, especially at Watkins Road. That will be readjusted too in that area. You have to take a look at the drawing. But Richard, did you have any final on that just yet?
Yeah, our plan is to take the 35-mile-per-hour speed limit, continue it through Watkins Road. It'll then increase to 45, and that'll be the maximum. Now, trust me, nobody will pay attention to those signs. Hopefully the guy in green will let some of his friends know about it, and they'll get a $160 contribution to the court. Because there's no other way. Those signs don't stop you, but they can certainly encourage it.
Yeah. And I've been talking to the sheriff about many things, and on that one, definitely she goes out and strategically targets certain areas. So if you're the unlucky one, massively exceeding the speed limit that day, you're going to be really, really unlucky. So again, you can't control everything that's out there. You post the speed limit. We ask you to follow that and to be safe that's there. But we're going to adjust that, sir, and we've taken that for action. It is a bit high on that. What's that, Richard?
We plan that, Howard, in the next 5 days.
The next 5 days. Thanks, Richard. What do you got, Ed?
And another great point of the roundabout is that's a traffic calming. Typically right now, I don't think it's sound long, but if you really were, really trying to make distance, you could go through there without really anything slowing you down. But when you come to a roundabout, you have to slow down, ease through it, and then come out the other side. So the great things about roundabouts are they are traffic calming.
This is the roundabout of Russell and Sandwich?
Yes, sir. That's what he was talking about. Yep. Yes, sir.
I have a specific question regarding the area at Sandwich and 209. How many houses have been built along Sandwich Road in the past few years?
Right on the road, and Sharice may be able to help me out. On the developments that are on there, Sharice, what have you seen, numbers that are in the communities, in the developments?
On Sandridge itself, Cross Creek is probably the biggest one by far. I can turn on my teacher voice. Cross Creek is the biggest one by far, and it'll be 998 houses when it's finished. But they have several phases to go. That'll probably take up to 10 years. Most of the other ones, Annabelle Island, which is across the street from it, is around 700 when it builds out. Most of the other ones that are down toward the center part of Sandridge are smaller. I would say anywhere between 300 and 700, but lower to the 300 number. So for your exact question of how many have been built the last couple of years, I could throw a ballpark out there, maybe a couple thousand. But we have a planned development map that I can share with you guys if you want to share your email, and that'll show the subdivisions that are planned in the area. So
I have a follow-up question. With over 2,000 houses being built and usually more than 2 people living in each one of those houses, how does adding a roundabout at 209 and Sandridge correct for over 2,000 people being in the area? And we're still only having 2 lanes of flowing traffic. So all you're doing is putting a roundabout there. You only have 2 lanes all the way up 209, 2 lanes down Sandwich. All you're doing is adding a median. How does that adjust for traffic flow?
Okay. Well, first of all, 2,000 just don't instantaneously appear, right, is the first thing. So when you take a look at the roundabout, you'd have to ask the engineers what its max capacity would be and the amount of trips through that roundabout. I don't have that, but Carlos could probably answer that. And the assumption would be that all 2,000, Sharice may have an answer, all 2,000 may not necessarily go through that roundabout. I would ask you all, what's an alternate route that you would use to get you to Green Cove? There will be when the First Coast Expressway is built, right? There'll be an option to use the First Coast Expressway. You'll also have an alternate route, which we just briefed, which was Cathedral Oak Parkway. So if you can try to imagine that in the flow of those 2,000 cars, they will be accommodated, and that traffic would be accommodated through those roadways and through the APFs, or the roads that go through the development to get you to a particular area. But if you're trying to say, okay, if 2,000 are going to that roundabout, what's going to happen? Yeah, of course it's going to explode, right? It's not going to work. But this is a very dynamic situation that goes on here with regards to the flow of traffic. I can't promise you that it's going to fix everything that's out there. It's going to address the concerns and at least get us up on step and par of where it really has been severely deficient over many, many years, just on the numbers that have been here that you can take a look at. Sharice, go ahead.
And I would just add to that, I mean, so the bonded road projects, which is what the topics are here tonight, are going to, that was the whole purpose of those, is because when they looked at the projections that were going to be in Clay County, specifically for the projects that were in this area, that's what they looked at. So they looked at the Bieber, which is I can't tell you exactly what it stands for, but it's the planning organization that projects numbers by looking at all the different variables. So that's how some of these roads got on this list, and why they're going to be worked on between now and early 2025. And actually, none of the roads in this immediate area, I don't want to say overused, but none of them were deficient. In other words, none of the roads in this area, even though there's a lot of traffic on them, were over-traveled, had too many cars on them. Even with the projections of these new houses that you're talking about today. So 218 is first on the list because it was the only road in the list that was already over capacity per se. So I know there's a lot of folks on these roads, which is the reason they're on the bonded transportation list, but they were not over capacity and were not projected to be over capacity within that 5-year period before the roads are complete. So.
And just to add to that, Cathedral Oaks Parkway, I see ladies up here not knowing where that is. That is 315, so it's a speedway, right there at 17, and then you go straight towards 218. So my thinking is, and I live right here, so I'm feeling all y'all's pain, don't trust me. 315, a lot of those people that are going to Middleburg are going to go down that road, which will take a lot of people from our area. Right now, they have to come down 209, down Sandridge, correct? A lot of people have to go that way to get home. Yeah, so that's going to take a lot of traffic already, not even thinking about the First Coast Expressway. So that goes straight towards 218. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think we'll take a question here in a second, but when you when you kind of in your mind look at the First Coast Expressway as a spine, and these ribs that come off of it that are part of the bonded transportation projects here, it allows, again, that flow of traffic north and south and east and west. Okay, really right now, the only way that you can get up to Brandon Field in that area, and if you're coming from Green Cove, is to use 209 to Sandridge, or you continue on 209 to go all the way up. So again, when the First Coast Expressway opens, you're going to see some significant changes. Okay, let alone with these projects that are out there. I want to also emphasize when they took a look at this and when they took a look at this and the engineers took a look at it, they took numbers of trips and they looked at the numbers of people. They looked at the proposed developments that were on the books and then they ran an algorithm and a model. Okay, we all know. It went into the computer, it spit out a number, it said, hey, here's what the capacity is, for the road. But realistically, if you just think of it in general terms, don't get into the geeky part of it for the engineering side, just think about it, that these added roads, along with the First Coast Expressway, will change the flow of traffic significantly throughout the county, okay, is really the bottom line. And so when we looked at that was what was key to get people north and south and east and west in the central part of the county. Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. First off, thanks for being here and explaining all this to us. It's good to have you. So this is a question about the new Cross Creek entrance that enters onto 209.
Yes.
I know it's not on the maps over there. So is that something that the developer to make turn lane and those additions to 209, is that on them to do that? And if it is, when's that timeline? Because there was an accident there this morning.
It's got that. They're called decel lanes and those there. Go ahead, Ed.
Sorry, I'm over here. I'm trying to keep the microphones apart. Yeah, as far as that improvement, it's really what we're considering, again, an operational improvement because the name of that road at Cross Creek is Oak Street. And Oak Street, again, is just 2 lanes out there. So the intent is to make that operational improvement as you're traveling north to have basically a center lane to turn in the center, wait for clear traffic and then turn in. And then also as you're southbound, if you want to turn in there, there'll be a de-acceleration lane to slow down, get you out of the stream of traffic. Again, the whole idea is to, at Watkins, at Oak Street, and as well as the roundabout, just to keep that traffic flowing through there. Sorry.
So
That is a part, and it is on the layout that we have over there. Again, you'll look for Oak Street. It doesn't say the name of the subdivision there. It's just the actual name of the street.
Thanks, Ed. All right. Any other general ones? Yes, ma'am.
I have 2 questions.
You got to run faster, Howard. I'm kidding.
In general, why are the roads not addressed prior to the development happening? And the second one is, I think there's going to be multi-use sidewalks, and I assume that means bike lane too, in some of the areas, and then bike lanes on roads in other areas. Is there going to be, where did that, why won't there be multi-use lanes on all the roads instead of putting bikes on the roadways that go 55 miles an hour?
So I think just to kind of clarify on the second question, it would be like, when you say multi-use, what's your definition of that, Carlos, so that everybody understands?
Multi-use would be shared use, like bike lanes and pedestrians, and usually they're 12 feet wide, and they go as small as 8 feet. Right now, the typical sections accommodate sidewalks on both sides, and a separate bike lane because there's specific bikers that ride on the street. So it does accommodate both pedestrians and bikes basically on the shoulder of the road. The bike lanes are 5 feet, and the travel lanes are 12.
And I think just to kind of further capitalize on that, there is a plan for trails throughout the county and to connect. So when you look at these, that's probably part of why it says multi-uses, that it would be used as a trail. We don't typically like the trails next to the road. We try to keep them in the woods and that to keep it that way. But sometimes in order to get somebody from the northern part of the county to the south, you've got to have a trail along at the edge of the road. Now this question about development, I hear you loud and clear on it. I live history all the time. I can just tell you, just moving forward, I believe these projects address that. Okay, again, not a perfect world, but we will do this. A lot of what they have in their plans that they've gone with, if it's only 2 lanes or 3 lanes, they've also most likely purchased right-of-way and future ponds to expand it out as that would need to be grown. But really, when you look at it, I hate to say this, but the recession happened, so it stopped that development that's there. But it also impacted us all negatively across the board. You don't want to be in a recession. But that did slow things up. This really allowed us to kind of catch our breath and to address these issues with the bonded transportation projects. Okay. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
And to add to that, we didn't have the funds. We were having to borrow this. Nobody wanted to borrow money. Of course, a lot of us weren't here back then, but, can't raise taxes. Nobody wants to raise taxes. Can't have funds. So, you got to get the money from somewhere. And that, unfortunately, didn't happen until now. And now we're faced with it. And unfortunately, all these developments waited until now to come in, all of a sudden, and we're getting hit with it. But, who could have foreseen that? I don't think anybody could. So, I think we're just doing the best we can now to go forward, and it's going to be rough for a little while, but I think after it's all over with, I think everybody will, for the most part, be happy. So.
And I think to address that concern, it is all about timing and having the right capacity at the right time, but it was brought to the board about mobility fees. So these mobility fees take trips, they take the number of trips that are there, the cost of all the road projects, not just bonded throughout, which is $450 million. So when you take a look at that and you're trying to budget for that amount, you obviously can't get there from here. So there has to be kind of a stair-step approach or a plan to move ahead. The board moved with mobility fees a couple of years ago to transition from impact to mobility, and that is where that money is coming from the development to pay for that capacity or that roadway. So that it was a lesson learned and to move forward to correct that, if that makes sense. And I don't want to confuse it too much on that. There's also some impact fees that are being brought to the board here on Tuesday for new development that's out there. Those 5 areas of impact would be governmental, like the jail or constitutional, public safety, law enforcement, parks and rec, and the last one, library and cultural. So that means that when somebody comes in and they buy a 1,500 square foot home, they're going to have a fee added on to that, and that fee is earmarked and special for those particular 5 areas. You know, we're struggling with overcapacity in the jail, so this will help the sheriff out and help us out, the county, to expand on the jail and or to build a new jail facility as an example. The other thing would be taking care of our law enforcement, our first responders, and public safety. Those impact fees for this new development would go there to help them into the future, addressing the strain on services to all of us here that we currently live. This will help to address that. Okay, how about, yes, sir? Yep. You know, there's only 3 question max, right?
So, Commissioner, you mentioned that this might be a little rough for a little while. My family here has been here in Green Cove and Russell since the 1960s, and after these development plans go into effect in 2025 or whenever they're supposed to be completed, we're going to have a road going directly through our land, and that's something that's not going to go away as a result of the overdevelopment that's been going on in the county. So my question is, no one answered my question earlier as far as the numbers with traffic flow in the roundabout being placed on my family's land. How is guessing that this roundabout is going to help traffic flow in our area beneficial for my family when that will be cutting right through our land?
Well, it's not a guess. There's a study for the roundabout, and there's traffic projections that go 20 years out that warrant the roundabout, and makes models that have different vehicles and has the flow, and shows that the roundabout will work with that projection.
How much better would it work? Or what numbers?
Well, the alternate, talk about the alternate, Carlos, explain that. So if you don't have a roundabout, what do you have? You have a traffic light. Which means that, I mean, those of you know, like, you're stuck at the traffic light for an ungodly amount of time waiting for it to turn, everybody backs up, and it's all about queuing. Where here on the roundabout, it allows you to flow through, okay, and get to where you need to go to. But go ahead, Carlos.
Well, number one, it's a calming device, so you'll slow people down. Number two, you're not going to be stuck at the light waiting for the light to turn, and therefore will keep traffic moving and flowing a lot better than the traffic signal. So the study shows that.
Power goes out, the roundabout continues to work.
And is there more traffic coming from Sandridge or 209B? Which side has more traffic that tends to flow?
Oh, definitely Sandridge.
Definitely Sandridge.
Right.
So would it not be beneficial to then consider a road where we were able to have yield turn lanes to go onto 209 and then a stop to turn left with traffic flow?
Well, the roundabout's a yield turn.
Right,
Yield stop.
it is, but it takes up more space, and you're also talking about moving the bullseye through my family's land. What I'm asking is...
Well, we're going to speak in specifics of, the intent of what we're doing is we have a narrow right of way, and we're not trying to affect people's property or land. You and I can talk in specifics, and we'll see where you're at and the adjustments, but we did with, information we had and laid it out the best we could without affecting people's property. That's not our intent.
I'd love to talk to you about it.
And one final thing, just the issue to have Sandridge where it intersects Russell and 209B where that intersects, it should have never really happened that way, if you guys think about it. It poses a lot of problems with the flow of traffic in that area, and those 2 different intersections. They're too close together, right, when you think about it.
You bring up a great point, Howard. That's where I was going. If you think about it, 209B with 209 is basically T intersection, and very few hundred feet down the road to the north, you have Sandridge that tees into 209 there. So if you can imagine, you have traffic, you're going out of 209B, trying to turn south, and you got that traffic now backed up that's trying to turn left into Sandridge. Again, with those two T intersections, especially with the continued traffic as it continues to grow, that's really an obsolete or inappropriate intersection to have an offset T like that. With the continued growth in the other continued traffic, you really need to have a quadrant or a four-way intersection, and the safest four-way intersection is really a roundabout, rather than, again, where you have the chances of T-boning, cars dieseling, sitting, waiting at a traffic light, lights flashing continuously. The best and most efficient way of moving traffic through that quadrant intersection is a roundabout.
Okay, good question back here.
Showing that there's,
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
All the roundabouts, I have seen them from the north to the south. Most people don't know how to use it. So are we gonna have teachers to teach these people how to use roundabouts?
Well, we hope that people, yeah, we hope that people would go into it at a slower speed and rate, but I can't guarantee that. And I think, it's the approach into these roundabouts. We have some lessons learned from Oak Parkway and that. We went in, Richard and I took a look at that. We kind of looked at it together. Richard came up with these, little bumps, kind of an area to kind of warn you as you entered it. It seems to be working down there, and that going into play. Maybe one day we can take those up, and you don't need kind of the training wheels anymore, right? And that to warn you as you go into it. But yeah, I mean, these are definitely concerns. It just seems like some people just can't really navigate around about it. It seems like, yeah, I can't help that. I mean, there's probably other things with regards to that with driving and on the road. Just gotta get the word out. We will get the word out about how to approach that. Laura's been doing some great videos across the board. We could even have a kind of video to talk about that too. But that's a great suggestion, sir. Thank you. Okay.
Got a question up here.
one of the maps up there, maybe two of them, show Sand Ridge coming through part of our family's property and then hooking up to Hummingbird Lane, which is a non-county road. And I was just wondering, what about the property that's there? My father lives there, and my three sisters and I live there. What's gonna happen to our property? These people are gonna be right on top of us.
Okay. Ed and Carlos, you've been looking at that?
Well, as far as the Hummingbird Lane, again, that's a little bit farther south than where the roundabout is. The intent would be, and the road, what we're talking about, or the swoosh that takes Sand Ridge and ties it into 209, right at 209B, would not tie into Hummingbird Road. That'll still remain to the south.
But
And
the
then,
pictures that you show up here hook
right,
to Hummingbird.
right. So the intent would then to tie Hummingbird into that swoosh, if you would. As that Sand Ridge is realigned or goes through and ties into 209, Hummingbird will hook in and tie into a little bit farther west of where it ties into 209. It just as it's shown on the layout. And again, we would love to be able to meet and talk with you guys.
Well, we've lived there for such a long period of time, and what we're concerned about is the fact that we've watched the growth and the new houses and all the noise and the cars and the gasoline smells and stuff. But what we want to know is, are we going to be able to live there for the next 10 or 15, 20 years maybe? We might have that much longer.
I won't tell you where to live, but the intent, again, is to leave as much in place as we can. The one, I believe he's part of the family, Mr. Joel, we've spoken with him. We've talked with him quite a few times as far as what's happening with his property. We met with him again on Monday. So again, the pieces of property that we're not touching, obviously I'm not going to tell you to move or to tell you to stay, because there are quite a few pieces of property along that road. That's a
Anything
decision.
in the mail? Anything that would come in the mail telling us what's going on? Because not all of us have emails or computers.
Gotcha. Again, what I'd love to do, I'd be able to set up a meeting. I can get you to come down to the engineering department and we could sit down and talk and show you what we have planned. If that works for you, I even would come out to you.
So in other words, some of these maps up here are not correct?
No, they're correct.
They're correct.
They're correct.
So we can see you offline, and we'll take a look at those concerns, address those.
Yes.
Also, when it comes to mail, Annalise is in the back. If you give her your address, we can accommodate that and send you these documents as they update via mail.
And the engineer, Bobby, who's got the blue blazer, he's right in his hand, that's his design. When we talk about the roundabout, he's trying to run out another way. No, I mean, that's what we're here to do, is share that information. I'll be glad to come back and share it with you, as well as show you what's on the dashboard.
I'm not a financial bond wizard, but you sent the bonds, you got them made. Is there an interest rate on that?
Yeah, the interest was, it's been a little bit, less than 2%. I think it was like, somebody helps me out, Richard may remember, 1.75. Oh, what was it? $1.5. Yeah, it was somewhere between 1.5 and 2. Yeah, it was very, very low.
On Team 2, you're talking about County Road 220. So you've got plans to widen 220 from Henley to Baxley, but what about from Henley to Nightbox? Because, I mean, that's crazy out there.
Yeah. Richard, you want to address that, or you're going to leave it up to Ed?
I'll let you cover that one.
Yeah, so that portion of 220 is slated to begin construction probably in the next 6 months, 7 months. DOT's got one piece of property. If anybody knows anybody that owns the Dollar General, will try to talk them into it. They've been trying for about 14 months to get about 10 feet of property from them, and they've been unsuccessful. Once that's secured, they will begin the project from Nightbox to Henley Road and through the intersection. So that's already funded by the DOT with slating for the construction to begin probably around their fiscal year begins in June, around June of 23.
You're closer, Howard.
I'm coming. Yep, yes, ma'am.
And then another question, how much of this planning happened prior to the commissioners approving the building of 2,000 new homes in the area? And when will it be awarded?
What will be awarded?
The roundabout is not awarded yet.
Oh, well, help me out on that, Ed. When's that project?
As far as when were the 2,000 homes?
Yeah,
that was all part of 2007. That was.
Yeah, Sharice, can you answer that for the 2,000 homes? I want to say that was way back in 2006, 2007.
I was just trying to answer his question on a number. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we'd have to talk about time periods, all that good stuff. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we probably, Cross Creek really is one of the only ones that's really got homes currently that I would call in the last couple of years
Yep.
that folks are actually living in. You've got Annabelle Island that they're building currently. You've got Granary, thank you. I knew it was with a G and I couldn't get to it. So Granary is building currently. Cross Creek and those Creek View are getting ready to start building. So that was just a guess on a number. If you want specifics, I can give them to you if you want to.
Okay, I think you might not have heard the question, Sharice. He wanted to know when these subdivisions were approved by the commission. This was 2006.
Yeah, so a lot of people talk about the development today. Now, let me back up because y'all are back. Hey, I see you guys. Talking about the development today and how it's just coming all of a sudden. The Lake Asbury Master Plan was approved way back in 2005. And that's where all those zonings came around that really adds a lot of this density to this area. So they have been here quite some time.
And then my question is, these roads, all these roads that are being changed, were these changes being talked about prior to 2006?
I don't know, I wasn't there in 2006, but I will tell you that from a planning and engineering perspective, that's part of what they talk about when they talk about growth and densities changing. So I would tell you that yes, there was some conversations. I can't tell you that they were these conversations.
But these specific roads that are being planned now were not being planned then by record.
I don't know that.
That's a pretty poor plan.
I mean, these roads
Again,
were already here.
that's a historic thing that we can't change history.
I know.
I think when you look at this, again, 2007 was a different dynamic. The population was half of what we are right now, basically in 07. So when you look at that, these are planned. It was a different type of impact at that point. The other thing was there were projects on the books which Richard and Ed took a look at along with the engineers. 218 is a prime example. 218 went to a design build and is the first out of the gate bonded transportation project because there were plans that were there. So I can't answer it exactly, like did somebody have a master plan for Russell and Sandridge? Well, really, you heard them when they said they took the 218 plans, they had to make some major adjustments even then because of what the current state is of the population, the analysis of the flow, the trips, and all of that. So, yeah.
It just sounds like we authorized a lot of growth without preparing for it, and now we're dealing with the after.
Probably, and I'll be honest with you, it's a common theme that's out there, yeah. And so we're trying to look far enough ahead, again, with these projects that are here and others. Like I mentioned, there's $450 million worth of road projects throughout the county. This part here is 130, right? So there's many more things that Richard and his team look at when they take a look at widening connections and things like that. So we're trying to get ahead of it. And again, having Richard on board, his team, and that helps us plan ahead and to hopefully fix these things that have happened in the past.
Howard, we're past our time.
Oh, well,
So what do you think, maybe about 3 more?
Yeah.
And I'll still give people a chance to.
How about 3 more?
Look at the stuff here on the.
Somebody's, okay.
Is there any plans to extend 216 to 218 in the near future? I'm seeing it ends at the 223 and nothing's in between.
Oh, no, there is we don't have a map with that on it, does it? It's the 218 extension. Trees, how long is that? And that goes west of the First Coast Expressway. How many miles? Oh, Richard, thank you, Richard. We'll answer that. Yep.
Yeah, that road was permitted in the last 2 to 3 weeks. There'll be construction on it. 3.3. Again, in about a month to 2 months. It is 90% developer funded. We are putting some impact fee money in it. And it will end with a roundabout at 218 and 216 in front of Shadowlawn Elementary School. And I bet those bus drivers, which my mama did for 30 years in Bradford County, will be able to handle the roundabout and maybe teach those kids how to do it too. So it's a very efficient device. I don't know if most of y'all live here, so y'all know the first day we put the light up at Sand Ridge, 45 minutes later, got struck by lightning. I got a call at 4:45. We got it going again by about 45 minutes, I think, maybe 50 minutes. The traffic was backed up all the way to Watkins Road. Lightning has never struck and stopped a roundabout that I know of. So there's a lot of positives to it. That road will be completed at the same time, so we will have a true connection, really and truly, from 301 to 17. So.
I've got a question back here.
Oh, yeah, where are you? Okay.
I have a question about the stormwater runoff from all these new communities and all these new roads, which are basically going to act as a barrier between the existing properties and the higher elevated roads. So is the water runoff, the storm drain runoff, is it focused primarily in Black Creek, or, I mean, I know it depends on the high point. My question is, where's it going?
Good question. So, Carlos, you want to take that one, or who on your team?
I'll walk that way like Carlos handled it, but as far as that goes, the roads, in their ultimate, I'm taking the engineer. As the new roads are developed or designed, the intent is to take all the water that would collect on the roads, on the bike lanes, into curb sections, goes into a closed drainage system or piping system, and then takes that water to a retention pond. And if you look on these maps, for example, up here, the blue discs, these are all the retention ponds that are along, for example, the First Coast Connect.
So every retention pond has an overflow point. So you can't just dump it in a retention pond and expect it to be there for the next 30 years. It's going to go somewhere.
So it's going to go into tributary.
So right now, the tributaries are along this, are Peters Creek and Bradley Creek, and you got Middle Log Creek right here. So all those overflows from the stormwater ponds will drain to a tributary that ends up either Black Creek and then obviously St. John's River.
Through Peters Creek, the other creek,
Right.
What
So
are
the
the ponds?
subdivisions have their own ponds that also drain to the tributaries. And then what we're doing, because we're adding a Curtis area, would have additional ponds as well.
I was asking that question because my wife and I and our neighbor, we live in Old Lake Avenue, which is downhill from everybody. Literally. We all know what happens when it rolls downhill. That's why I asked the question.
Yes, sir. And what year storm are the ponds designed? 25-year storm.
Oh, it should be.
Thank you. And how many inches per hour? Do you have that number too? If you, it probably would exceed what, at 3 to 5 inches per hour, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought, John.
Something else that we also do too, there's a pre-post analysis, so we're not allowed to discharge any additional water from our right-of-way project side in excess of what was there before the development. So same thing with the developers. There's a certain amount of water flowing through a drainage basin, and there's a discharge point, and that volume of water that was there prior to the development cannot be any greater than what was there before the development.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Go, you got it. All right, last question in the back. Uh-oh. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to address a traffic light situation. Is there going to be a traffic light on Lake Asbury Drive and Henley? The reason I ask, if you go out Lake Asbury, you're going up an incline, you can't tell the northbound lanes who's in who. Plus, you've got platted houses that are going to be in the future and now, and they are coming out at you. And then some people are taking chances on going into left turn lanes because they can't see who's who over here. Then you've got Byron Road that's going to connect into Winchester and go out Lake Asbury. So we're going to create quite an intersection there.
I'm going to let Richard answer.
Yeah, Richard. Carlos. We'll look at that. We can do a traffic warrant study, look in traffic warrant studies. We can't just put a traffic signal up because somebody wants to. What we found out are these attorneys that have a lot of advertising space. Not only will they sue you for running a red light or rear-ending someone, they'll then go to the county or the city or whatever jurisdiction put it up and say, hey, was there a reason to put that light at Lake Asbury and Henley? And if we don't have a proper study that shows the number of accidents, the number of fatalities, the number of pedestrians and other things that happen, they'll sue to say that was an obstruction that you created. So we got to be careful and put these up where they're needed. Where you're talking about is real near where you, again, we got to look and see if it's an accident. Just because someone doesn't go out with a proper gap, if there's enough accidents there, we'll get it. A classic one that DOT has studied for us 8 times since 2008 is at 315 and State Road 16. As you go down there, it's hard to turn in. One person wants to turn left that's driving a garbage truck, everybody gets backed up. DOT has looked at it, I think 8 times, including once by the current commissioner. She asked them to do it and they did it. They still won't give us a light there because their idea is to get folks from Stark to Green Cove, not to stop to let the garbage truck take a left. So we've really got to warrant it and see. In your area though, there's a new road being built called Verbena Parkway. And I need to look and see how close it aligns to Lake Asbury Drive. That road will go from Henley in a circular manner over to Sand Ridge on the west side of the expressway of the First Coast Expressway. That road, that will have a light at Henley because there'll be a major commercial center there with new homes. I need to look and see how close that is to Lake Asbury Drive. We may be requiring them to line up with it. Let me check on that, okay? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Richard, as always. Listen, it is past that time. I see some individuals. Just, Commissioner Burke, did you want to say anything to wrap up? If you have some questions, come see folks here. Please go back and see Annalisa. Sign up for the newsletter and that. There she is. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Really appreciate you all. Thank you.